Is it still possible to like The Dirty Dozen? Granted, it's rather tame when compared to today's action movies, but after all the mass shootings, and after all the excuses not to do anything about them, movies have been around for 100 years or so, but we're only now just beginning to understand the effects of screen violence on society. Are movies merely reflecting society, or do they help create the society they're reflecting? There are vested interests on both sides of that debate, some more persuasive than others. As a young screenwriter, I gravitated towards writing action movies. They were fun and easy to write, and they sold, sometimes. I don't write action movies anymore. Oh, not that my smartphone is ringing off the hook lately. But the allure of bang bang still runs deep, especially when you're young. Not exclusively, though. I'm an old man and I still feel it. The urge to pound the bacon, as we used to say when we were kids. Oh, and I know all the arguments. Drama is conflict, and conflict is resolved by action. But what kind of action, and to what degree? But don't worry, I haven't been turned into a Wally type balloon. Not yet, anyway. I still eat meat. And I still like the Dirty Dozen. And they didn't come much dirtier than the Dirty Dozen back in the summer of 1967. That would soon change, of course, with Bonnie and Clyde and the Wild Bunch. But for the moment, the Dirty Dozen took pride of place as the hot action film, much to the dismay of critics and social commentators. But not to the audience. It was a big, big hit. Everyone knows the formula by now. Assemble a team of the nastiest convicts and train them to kill, no, let's be clear, to murder a chateau full of Nazi officers and their wives and girlfriends and mistresses. Yes, they're Nazis. And so the movie is able to justify what is essentially a murderous home invasion. Now, all of this may seem like I'm being a little tough on an old action movie. Like, who cares? 2 points. One, it's a boomer action movie, and I'm calling dibs on saying whatever I want to say about it. And two, well, you figure it out. But I still like the Dirty Dozen. Well, maybe not all of them, but I'm still rooting for the team. How does that work? Well, they are killing Nazis, the all-purpose bad guys, but it's really about the characters and the actors who play them. We meet them in prison, we go through training with them, and then we get to go on the mission with them. And by that time, we begin to care about who lives and who dies. When Donald Sutherland's Pinkley gets shot, the whole audience goes, "Oh man, not Pinkley." Sure, he's a goof, but he's our goof, especially after that great scene where he impersonates a general. And when Lee Marvin chews him out for it, we get to see just how human he really is. Unlike Telly Savalas's maggot, a religious nutjob and a sadistic woman killer who pops his cork early and nearly blows the whole deal, him I can do without. And then there's John Cassavetes' Franco, a made man from the South Side who's all mouth. It's a scene-stealing performance, but when he dies, do we really care? Unlike Jim Brown, who goes out in a blaze of glory, he really does bring the house down. You know Charles Bronson's going to live. He's as tough as old shoe leather. The same with Richard Jekyll. Although not one of the dozen, he's along for the ride and good company. Lee Marvin is the leader of the gang and the star of the film, so you know he's going to make it. But Marvin didn't like the movie, despite it being his biggest hit. As a World War II vet, he thought it glamorized violence. And my dad sure didn't like Lee Marvin shoving Clint Walker around. Dad was a big Cheyenne fan. I had read the novel shortly before the movie came out, and I kept trying to picture which actor in which part once I saw that movie poster. There's a character in the book who works as a hangman at the military prison where the Dirty Dozen are being held. So I kept thinking, Telly Savalas, yeah, I can see him in that part. Or maybe Ralph Meeker. But that character never made it to the big screen, and in a way, neither did the climax. In the book, the raid on the chateau is rendered as a copy of an action after report. Needless to say, as a 14-year-old boy, I was a little disappointed at first. But reading it again after seeing the movie, I thought, that's a pretty clever idea. And it was interesting to see how it compared to the film version. I once showed The Dirty Dozen to a friend of mine who was 20 years younger, but he thought it was too slow and boring. But when I saw the movie opening week at the Great Lowe's Capitol Theater in New York, the audience was jumping out of their seats during the climactic raid, which is brilliantly staged by director Robert Aldrich. But my friend didn't see the movie in a movie theater, and he wasn't there with us back in the summer of 1967. And he didn't go through the training with us, and he didn't get to go on the mission. See you around the chateau.